And we are live and welcome to Friday. Yay, I am Jen Lee, Rebel Esquire, and I am super excited to have Steve Fretzin here today. And if you saw my title for this, it was Biz Dev that doesn't suck because lawyers hate biz dev. But Steve is the master at this. He has been doing this for 17 years or so, written books on this topic. He has done all kinds of great work on rainmaking and how to build a successful law practice. And I'm very excited that he's here today. So thank you, Steve, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. I'm excited to collaborate today. We're going to have some fun.
All kinds of fun. And I'm super sarcastic, and that's where my Rebel Roundtable discussions usually come from, is calling out lawyers for things. Jumping right in. First of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then I have a mindset question for you.
I play a lawyer so well that everyone thinks I'm a lawyer. And I tell them the closest I ever came was being grilled by my lawyer father, which happened every day as a teenager, which drove me nuts. Now I get to drive my teenager nuts. So it all flows downhill. But I'm not an attorney. I got into my own coaching practice back in 2004. And I came up with a philosophy because I always hated sales. I always hated being salesy, and I hated being sold to. That was called sales-free selling. And it allowed me to work with entrepreneurs in Chicagoland to help them grow business without ever feeling icky about it, and doing it in a really sustainable way, relationship driven, very consultative, and not a lot of pitching, presenting, selling, convincing. And I never had like an idea that lawyers needed business, wanted business, or were going to talk to me about business until the recession of 2008. That set off a chain of events that I just am so blessed that it happened to me, because between the lack of training at all around business development for lawyers in law school or at the law firm level, it opened up a sea of opportunity for me to go in with a sales-free methodology. And it was like, chocolate hitting peanut butter for the first time. And it's been a sweet engagement ever since. And I work with individual attorneys to get the most out of them, helping them grow their practices, double, triple, and most importantly, stay sustainable through a career and continue to develop and grow every single year. And it's just a tremendous amount of joy. And I just feel like I get to work with the smartest, nicest people in the world. And I've moved to more of a national, international sort of space since Zoom opened up in 2020. And so I do coaching and training, and I run mastermind groups, and that's really all I do other than create a tremendous amount of content.
It's funny that you say that the Zoom opened up everything in 2020. Some of us have been using Zoom since like 2010, but lawyers are so far behind the curve all the time on technology and things that it took an international pandemic to resolve that. And so business development rainmaking is one of my favorite things. I love sales because I understand the no sales mindset. What do you find with lawyers? Like, what's the number one mindset shift they have to make when they start thinking about the sales and business development process?
It really comes down to just a clean understanding that if you hate sales and the word sales and selling and being sold to, you're not looking at it the right way. The right mindset is lawyers are built and trained to solve problems. That's what they do every day, right? It's what you do, it's what they do. Everybody's doing that. And guess what? So am I. I'm solving problems for lawyers of not being effective with their time and how they grow their books of business. So what am I selling, right? I'm here to be a resource, and I'm here to help walk someone through a buying decision to decide, is this a good fit for me and for you? And so the shift of the mind is really, I'm not really selling. I'm there out there because I'm very good at what I do to solve problems for people. And so lawyers need to understand, the more people you can solve problems for, the more business you have, the more control, freedom, flexibility, and joy you may have in your career, having a big book of business. And so I think we have to just look at it as problem solving, not selling. And then when you insert sales-free selling into that, that really takes it to another level, because now you really get that you're not selling. You're really out there helping. And that's really the key.
And I think obviously on the right track. You've been this a long time, you know what you're doing. But to point out to listeners that problem solving, the thing that lawyers like to do is solve problems. We often jump to here's the ultimate solution. Understanding how people get to that buying process is sales, but it's helping lawyers also figure out that they are helping and problem solving. And we like to solve problems. And so I think approaching sales from that problem solving standpoint is a good thing, and not selling people things they don't need or want. I think that's a frustrating thing. Yeah.
Another simple way to think about it is I'm going to see a therapist because I'm having difficulty, with a relationship. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I go in to see the therapist, and the therapist just sits there and pitches and sells me on why he is such a great therapist and the pedigree and super high rates and why they're so high, and just selling me for an hour. And at the end of it, I'm sort of like impressed, but also kind of like reeling from this experience of being presented to in such an aggressive way, versus an opportunity for me to go in and have someone say, so why are you here today? And what's going on? And it's this relationship. Okay, well, tell me more about that. What's been going on? And getting to the root of it. And after 50 minutes, maybe there's a tissue box out and I'm letting some emotion out, right? And what's the likelihood that I'm going to say, can I see you next week? I feel so much better. And so lawyers have to think of themselves as that counselor, as that therapist for business owners and for people. And that's going to take a lot of the pressure off of having to sell too, is thinking of themselves in that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that too, that we're often therapists, and a lot of lawyers go to law school because they like the transactional and the type A stuff. And so it's not a natural switch for them sometimes. So I think that's where some of them struggle too.
Well, the word counselor is right in the name. So, be a counselor.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a pitch that someone was trying to make me a couple of weeks ago for totally unrelated to really anything. But I was laughing because they were trying so hard to sell themselves. And I wanted to say, I don't care. Like, I don't care about that you went to Harvard. I don't care any of those things. What's in it for me? Why do I need this? And they never got to that point. So.
Well, and it's unfortunate because people that are using outdated sales and pitching models, which most people are, lawyers included, haven't recognized the change in buyers and the change in the environment to where, we want it to be more of a collaborative experience. Yep. And be about the buyer, not about the firm and the seller and the pedigree. And that, people say, hey, I'm going on a pitch meeting. And that right away, leads to them talking and selling versus asking, listening, and empathy and understanding, which is sort of a new, better model.
I agree. And that also leads to higher fees, higher retention, and things like that.
Yeah.
So you had a book that came out recently, and I got to be featured in your book. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. But it was like the stories of 101 Rainmakers Secrets, the secrets, I think. It's on your back.
Secrets to growing a successful law practice. Yes.
Yes, there you go. Talk through what surprised you most when you were putting together that book. It's a fantastic book. If you don't have it and you're watching this, you should go get it.
It's a killer book. And it's the only book I've ever written. This is my 5th book, where it was written via the interviews from my podcast, Be That Lawyer. So my job in my podcast is, how do I get the goods out of the people I'm interviewing? That could be you. That could be, an expert in marketing. It could be an expert in anything. And if I can get every episode to have 3 to 5 solid takeaways, then I consider that a really good episode. So for me to go back in and find and curate the 101 Rainmaker interviews that I felt were the strongest, and the challenging part is now I have 101 lawyers that I have to wrangle. Is this okay to do? Do you want to be a part of this? Can we collaborate? And getting them to respond. And the good news is everybody wins because your name and others are highlighted. There's social media around it. There's some positivity around sharing your secrets and value with the world via this book. And so that was really the tricky part, was the curation of and wrangling of the attorneys to help me not only, insert it into the book, but then also on the marketing side, on the back end, to say, hey, now that this is out, help me, get it out to people so everybody can enjoy it. And by the way, get a lot of value from it, which has been the case. I mean, the feedback, not only on the Amazon reviews, I think we're 55-star reviews. I don't think there's a 4 in there. But in addition to that, just the number of people that have read it and then come back to me and said, I can't tell you how much I love this book and how much I got out of it. And it's like loaded up with earmarks and pen marks and circles and all the things that, because it covers a lot of ground about what does it take to be a rainmaker from a mindset perspective, operationally, from a marketing, leadership, and BD perspective. And so you're getting kind of a well-rounded vibe about what does it take.
My favorite part about that, not that I love being on your podcast, by the way. It's a great podcast. Everyone should listen to Be That Lawyer. But I posted on LinkedIn and my social media when we got the box of books, because I ordered several copies. My daughter opened the box and she's 9 and she took out the book and I was like, turn to page 141. And so she turned it. She's like, Mom, this says Jen Lee. Are they talking about you? And I was like, yes, they are. And so they read through it. Both my daughters read through like the story, and it's fun in a way that it's encouraging the next generation too. I want them to grow up and see that being a lawyer is cool and it's not this horrible industry that people hate working in. So,
and like a co-author, like your name, you wrote a part of a book, right? So there's like for many lawyers, it's a dream to write a book, and most never fulfill that dream. So here's an opportunity for me to share the dream with 100 rainmakers. And by the way, the 101, the number, the one at the end was my father, who passed away last year. And that was one of my favorite interviews on the podcast. It's number 200. And he's the last interview of the book is my dad and Larry the lawyer. And I talk about him a lot on the show because whether he was grilling me as a teenager, helping destroy a contract that I thought was going to go through, and he found like a dozen things that were going against me. And he was a great devil's advocate, and he was an amazing lawyer. And a lot of people could learn from him, even though it wasn't called business development back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He was doing it. He just didn't know he was doing it. This is just the way he was, build relationships.
Yeah. There's one thing that you do really well. Now, you do a lot of things really well, but there's one thing I really like about you is you help lawyers find like their strengths and find out what makes them different out there. And because that's what makes selling sleazy, is when you feel like you're not being yourself. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that, helping people find their strengths. It's not always the same for everybody.
Yeah. It's one of the first things I do when I start with a new client is we start to develop a plan. And part of that plan is, who are the targets they want to go after, strategic partners, prospective clients, buyer persona. We go through all of that. We do a basic SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Anyone in marketing knows that, and anyone that's been through that. But sometimes it's their legal prowess, and sometimes it's something that just we can start to go, you know what? Have you been leaning into that? No, not at all. But you're doing something no one else is doing or no one else is talking about. Like, that's a differentiator that we could really leverage for social media, for writing, for speaking, and for just how you're remembered, because that's the most challenging part is, you meet 100 lawyers and what's different about any of them? Well, it's how they stand out in your mind as an expert in a particular area. Or there was one guy that I worked with years ago. He's a former Marine, former firefighter, former cop, now lawyer. And he wasn't leveraging any of that. And I was like, shouldn't you be called like first response legal? And he was like, what? I was like, shouldn't you? I'm not a marketing branding person, right? Like, I didn't come up with Be That Lawyer. I had some top experts do that and help me. But sometimes, we just have to, it's just sometimes it's hard to read the label from inside the bottle.
Yep,
and
definitely.
This is an opportunity for you and I and folks that do coaching and consulting to step in and identify what's going to help somebody be successful when they're just not able to see it themselves, or maybe they've tried it themselves, but it just hasn't been curated and honed properly.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the legal industry is so stuck in the, again, why I rebel against the whole system itself. They're so stuck in how things have always been done. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times people get in their heads they can't do those things because that's not how it's always been done. And that's one of my favorite things to tell people is if you're doing something that no one else is doing, that's way better than being the 101 other people that are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So
I talked to a guy the other day. He wanted to add two partners to his firm so that he could have a three named law practice. I said, you're going to deal with two partners and share and do all these things with these people you haven't selected yet. So you could have a three name firm. I'm like, people are moving away from that. You want something like my friend Leslie Cohn, who's also in the book. She changed it from her firm to All Rise Legal.
yep.
Well, what a great freaking name for a law firm, right?
Right.
And that's something where it's not attached to Leslie, even though she's the driving force behind it. So I immediately was like, slow down, man. Don't jump into bed with two people and start, giving away everything. I said, there's other ways to skin that cat. So I think he was pretty grateful at hearing that.
Yeah, and I do like that. I mean, being able to sell a law firm that traditionally wasn't always a great model or anything like that, but it's becoming more and more common. And having a name that works that's not named partners is usually way better for that.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about building systems, and I feel like some lawyers are accidental rainmakers and some are intentional. What's the difference? Like, how do you build a system to be intentional about it?
Well, there's two ways to build a system. Number one is trial and error. And there are people, and I did this to build my system. I went out and I talk about in my networking handbook, nobody wasted more time networking than this guy. And I have a lot of great stories, horrible stories, but great stories too, of networking, snafus and wastes of time and just ridiculous amounts of things that I did to try to build my network. Ultimately, though, we learn from those lessons, hopefully. And if we do learn from those lessons, we can create a system that works for us. That takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of money, takes a lot of patience. And most lawyers, quite frankly, don't have the sustainability and the stamina for doing that. So they fall back to, I'm just going to bill hours, right? Which we both dislike. And right. And I mean, I could say that's right. I'm triggering you with that. The goal from my perspective is, what if you're handed a system that can then be customized to you?
Yeah.
So if I'm not a lawyer, but I want to become a lawyer. Well, I go to law school so that they can give me the training for the systems of how to run a deposition or how to run a trial. And then of course you have to be in the field doing it, but you're working underneath people who are teaching you the systems so you know them. In business development, it's the Wild West, right? We're just out there shooting and hoping that we're going to hit something. So random acts of marketing, networking that doesn't lead to anything, going to 3-day conferences, getting zero from it. I mean, everything is time, and time is the most precious asset. So I'm providing systems of how to plan and execute and build sustainability that have been curated over 17 years of working exclusively with lawyers, so you don't have to figure it out. And then of course your personality and other people's personalities are different. And so then that's why we have a training component where we give you the systems, and then we have a coaching component because I'm dealing with a solo and estate planning, and I'm dealing with a huge big firm IP attorney that has multi-million-dollar book, and then everything in between. So to say that everybody's going to do things the same way, no way. We have to take the systems and find what's useful in them. And you're smiling, so you're liking something.
You mean a downloaded blueprint from the website or from the internet doesn't work for everybody? You're kidding.
I'm just saying.
That's been my motto for the last 6 months or so. It's like, sure, download a blueprint. That'll fix everything.
I mean, even if you give someone like the exact systems and plans, like that's the thing, like about me, you could give me a new software that's a system, but if it isn't customized to me, if I'm not trained on it, I'm not going to feel comfortable using it. I think business development falls into that similar category.
I agree. It's because it's personal. The best business development is personalized for the person who's doing the business development. So so you said something in there. I always pick out little things that people say, and I try to remember to come back to them about conferences and going to like a 3-day conference and coming back with like 0 action items or 0 things. What is the source of some of this failed business development or follow-up? Is it a follow-up problem?
It's more than that. And I want to just to help everybody out. I want to put three things together. I want to do presentations, conferences, and attending events. And I want to package them together a little bit for this, what I'm going to share. The way that I see those three activities is like a story. And every good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I know when I'm in the middle of watching a story in a movie on TV and my wife comes down and she missed the beginning, I can hit pause because she's got about 10 questions. Why does he hate her? Who's that? Like, she missed the beginning of the story. So when we talk about events, conferences, and speaking, we want to consider that there are going to be some planning elements. There are going to be some execution elements when you're there, and there's going to be some follow-through elements. And if you miss any of those three things, you're really putting your time, money, energy at risk and at stake. So what would be an example of a planning element? Did you get the list of who's going to be at the conference, right? Did you build a relationship with the person running the conference so that when you go, they can introduce you around? Hypothetically, that's something you could do. Did you find that there's 5 or 10 people that you want to meet at the conference that would be good prospects for you? And did you connect with them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw you on the list. I'm really excited to meet you. Maybe we can even grab a coffee. I'd love to figure out how to add value for you in your world. And maybe you get 4 or 5 appointments set up before you even go to a conference.
Yep.
Right. Then there's the execution of how are you meeting people, asking questions, and doing effective networking. And then the follow-up. And this is the worst thing. I used to have, lawyers on a regular basis, they'd have a stack of 5, 10, 20 cards sitting on their desk for a week, 2, 3, 4. And eventually those cards go boop, right in the trash because they're done. Like the follow-up from a conference or an event or anything, even a speaking engagement, needs to be 12 to 24 hours.
Yep. Right away.
I'm getting a little bit extreme where I'm saying to people, like, if you meet someone at a conference that you think is solid, schedule the meeting right there. Like, hey, let's get together in a week. What's your schedule look like? They pull out their phone, you pull out your phone, and you put it down. And now you don't even have a follow-up because it's already locked in. Do that 5 or 10 times from a conference. I mean, how much better is that going to be than the feeling you get of your heart sticking in your stomach when you realize somebody that could have been a new client, you just totally blew off?
Yeah. I had a great experience recently where I got a client out of a conference because they were doing a keynote speech, and I tagged them on LinkedIn, said, this is great. Everyone should be listening to this, blah, blah, blah. And we connected. And then they started following me on LinkedIn. And then we connected. He was like, oh, this is a fantastic connection. And I'm so glad we met. And it was just due to the fact that I was interacting and engaging and that kind of thing. And it wasn't so much that I set up the meeting there, but it was interesting because it was intentional. I was like, I want this person to know who I am. And started tagging and using social media. Everyone thinks that it has to be either you do business development networking style or social media, and it all comes together in a package is what I found.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I typically share that the best 1-2 punch you can have as a lawyer is that you get your business development down where you have a plan and you have a system and you're doing it on a daily basis, and getting appointments and meetings and continuing to progress. While that's going on, why not support it with the social media, the writing, developing that authentic brand of who you are? I mean, nobody's done that better than you, Jen. I mean, you're like the master of authenticity and branding. Okay. So why are other lawyers not doing it? And I look at their profiles on LinkedIn, I go, I mean, they got the blue background, they got associate attorney, the URL's got a bunch of numbers and letters. I mean, it's like, no, we need a total makeover and that's a good title actually for a LinkedIn thing, is the LinkedIn makeover. Write that down. But it's the marketing and the business development, when done together as a 1-2 punch, will really elevate somebody much more quickly than just doing one individually and not the other.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, so I see a lot of solos out there these days, and I've been kind of going off on this. We all kind of need our own board of directors or a mastermind or some kind of advisory group. Talk a little bit about your groups that you run. Yeah,
they're really amazing. I have people, so they're really for people who are already good business developers. So it's, if somebody meets me and I evaluate them and they don't need my training, they don't need my coaching, like this is a rock star, the last thing I'm going to do is talk to them about that. I'm going to right away say, hey, look, would you like to be in a room with 10 top rainmakers, managing partners, law firm leaders, all that care mostly about growth over everything else, living the best lawyer life possible. And then they go, tell me more, because it sounds great. And then the idea that they're going to have the opportunity to, in a confidential environment, share their problems, share best practices and secrets and ideas. I obviously do some coaching on the side with those folks if they need me, and then also I bring in people like you, Jen, to talk to them about how do we change our mindset about the billable hour, how do we better use our time. I bring in, like, I know I do time management pretty well, but there's a couple other people, Sarah Reef Hecking and Walt Hampton, and that's kind of like their jam. So why not bring them in? They're friends, they'll do it, right? And they may pick up some business. I know Sarah's picked up some business from it, things like that. So I've got two levels. I have one for business developers who are working towards their first million, and then I've got two other groups that are for people that are well over $1 million. And again, they're all in this with me together for the same purpose of how do we support each other, and not the support you get at your firm, right? Or the support you don't get as a solo, but like support, like you have a family now of people that care about you and want to see you successful. And that's nice, because normally it's just me. I'm like on an island on my own. I'm the one in the silo helping my individual clients, which is great. But then, they get this camaraderie that they never had before. So pretty cool.
So something you said there was interesting, not the direction I plan on actually going, but now I'm curious because this has come up a couple of times last few weeks. Time management, the often complaint I get from especially my solo lawyers is I would love to join some type of advisory group or mastermind. I just don't know where I would find the time to do things like that. How do you respond to that?
I mean, it's one of the first things I have to deal with most of my new clients, because they are under billable hour pressures. They're under, the family pressures. There's a lot going on. And so we need to really work together to open up gaps of time and to get their organization. And if I'm being, I'll try to be humble with saying this, that I don't know really anybody more organized than I am. My inbox is at zero every day. I'm not working on Fridays other than today, just for you and for another group I have. I don't have any paper, zero paper, right? I'm on a Remarkable 2. Everything is in Dropbox backed up. And just every auto schedulers. I don't schedule meetings with people. Like, it's all automation and delegation, and understanding how you should be valuing your time and what your time is worth. And so I have to work with people on that. And can I give you a quick funny story?
Sure. Yes, of course.
So my grandfather, when he was in his mid 80s, and he loved going to the library, and they called him up one day and they said, Mr. Fretzin, you haven't returned a book. He goes, no, I return books. I'm there all the time. I always return books. They go, well, this one you didn't return. He goes, I don't think that's the case. I always return my books. Can't be possible. She goes, well, this book you haven't returned. He goes, well, all right, what's the name of the book? She goes, How to Improve Your Memory. Right? So it's like, it's front and center that if time is the most important thing to lawyers and their use of it, and they're not being trained and systematized into some kind of time management organization, automation platform that's going to help them to be careful and useful with their time, then it's going to be very difficult to accomplish the goals that you want in your life and to accomplish happiness, because you're always going to be putting out fires and living in your inbox and all the things that lawyers, hate, but end up having to do for more years than they'd like. Yeah,
I was just telling someone the other day that using automation saves me 1,000 hours a year. And
it's really quite amazing. And if people take the time to track even a day of their life, they would find a lot of things that are wrong with that day and how they're spending it.
And but you have to be willing to put some time into like planning out this. So I always tell people, take the time up front, take 25 hours. Like if I told you for 25 hours, we could automate and change things and save you 1,000 hours over the year, would you do that? Like, oh yeah. And I'm like, so why are you not doing that? Like instead you're spending 25 hours a week messing around with this stuff. And so
because I'm busy.
Yeah. I don't Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with investments, like the chicken or the egg. Like I want to invest in time management and all that, but I don't have the money to do it. Well, how do you get the money? Well, you have to, it's like chicken or egg on investing in yourself.
Yeah, I agree. we'll try and wrap this up. I feel like we could go off on all kinds of fun discussions, and we usually do. Every discussion we have tends to go into new and cool things, which I love. Where can people connect with you and find you at?
I mean, I'm all over LinkedIn under Steve Fretzin. My website is bethatlawyer.com. Check out Be That Lawyer podcast. I'm actually starting a second podcast called Be That Lawyer Coach's Corner. Ooh,
Oh, cool.
announcement, live announcement. Hasn't been promoted or posted yet. So I'm ahead,
Ooh,
I'm ahead
I
on the
get the
show.
exclusive on it, huh?
Exclusive, yes. So Be That Lawyer, Coach's Corner with Steve Fretzin. It's going to be more about this, like with the questions you're asking me and how do I help lawyers to be successful. That'll be more, this will be a show that's more directly me advising lawyers and answering questions. And I'll bring on some clients to kind of share their experiences so people understand what's going on. So that's going to be fun. That'll be a 2 a month exchange versus my current one, which is twice a week. So a difference. But yeah, I'm very easy to find. Steve@fretzin.com if you want to email me directly.
Okay. And I will put that in the show notes when I go update the description and everything on this. Finally, we do have the Rebel Roundtable playlist on Spotify.
Yeah.
What is your go-to anthem when you need to get yourself pumped up?
All right, I'm a man of the 80s. I'm 55 years old, so we got to go with Rocky 3, Eye of the Tiger. Nothing gets you pumped up. I mean, when you think about the drum beat and you think about the lead up and all that, I mean, is there a better workout song or something to get you pumped up? Eye of the Tiger.
That's perfect. I will get that added. It's really funny when I do these on Fridays, the guest will tell me their song, and then for like the rest of the day, it's like on repeat on my Spotify because I'm listening to it. So
I was going to say it's the commercial Cars for Kids. Get that
right.
earworm going. You'll be miserable the rest of the day.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for your time. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, Jim.